So my guest today is Greg Pyle, Managing Director of Micro Nav, and the topic of that interview is to discuss how remote training can be done in COVID time. Greg, good afternoon.
Nice to see you again. Good afternoon. How are you?
Good. I still locked down. I guess you are as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Getting used to home office.
Getting used to the home office. I have a running joke that says my garden is in perfect order, my cars have been cleaned, and the DIY seems to have run out. So I think I've satisfied all those needs at home. But it's been long. We've been 9 weeks now operating from home across the business.
Wow, quite a change for the company, I guess. When we discussed in the preparation, it was clear to me that in your simulators, you have remote features from a long time. They can be very useful in the COVID time with the challenges we have now. But can you first tell us more where these features come from, what's their history, and why are they in the system already?
Sure. So the ability to have remote piloting has been driven initially from a need from one of our larger customers where they have multiple sites and want to make use of a pool of pilots located in a centralized location. And that has been successfully in operation for many years now. Now that was operated on a private cloud that they established, but the core technologies required to push this out further, which has been the need for COVID-19, have been part of our product for quite some years now.
That was remote piloting, meaning the trainees and the assessors were on the same side.
Correct.
But now can you also split the trainers and the trainees from the pilots as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So any of the functions within the simulator can be either co-located or remote. And so we now have the ability for the pilot to be in location A, the instructor to be in location B, and the student to be in location C, or any mix that the end user wants to use.
So that means you could also use that not only for remote, but also if an ANSP has enough room on site to have what we now call social distancing between the pilots and between the controllers.
Yes,
so basically
absolutely.
Splitting the simulator at a larger scale?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can have pilots in one building and operational staff in another. You know, some ANSPs are choosing to isolate their operational staff. I haven't seen that with core students, ab initio students, but for operational staff that need to do currency, we're in conversations with a couple of our customers to help them solve that problem. And so, yeah, you can have anybody located anywhere is what we are demonstrating, and it's in the field today. So we're very happy with that outcome at this point.
So, and pushing to the other extreme, you could have every student in his home, at home, every pilot at home, and the instructors as well. So really the extreme dispatch situation.
Well, that is in operation today. So,
okay.
So that's being trialed at the moment, and so far the feedback we're getting from a couple of key customers that we're asking to go through these trials is very, very positive, and they are delivering training exactly as you've just described.
One key aspect of training is also communication. So how do you handle the communication in such a setup? Is all the voice communication between ATCOs, pilots, but also the ATCOs amongst themselves with neighboring sectors, or even within a sector, all handled in the system?
Yes. So that is it's been a challenge. There's no question. That's one of the development cycles that we've had to put some effort into rapidly in the last few months, because in the previous best remote function there was a fairly limited number of communications requirements. But as the users are now getting more complex, we have had to put some effort into that, but it works. So in the same way that we have the best application which allows you to see an air traffic management display or a 2D image for tower, we've now also put electronic flight progress strips, the MET information, airport information, but more importantly, the communication systems are in the cloud. The challenge that we have there for an end user is, of course, you're talking about real estate. So if you have a student who has just a simple desktop or with a single screen or a laptop with a single screen, it will work. But the trade-off is that you don't have as much glass to put your applications on. So we're now advising people to think about more glass. So 2 displays or even 3 displays with a home computer or the modern laptops is the preferred solution, which means that the user has the full spectrum of capability of our product, but delivered through a cloud solution. So based on the individual requirements, the individual configurations for the user, that's how they'll interface. The other trade-off that, or let's say, less than ideal solution at this point is touchscreens. Not many people have touchscreens at home. But again, that's not something that that we're worried about. It's just that it's an infrastructure investment that people will have to consider. So as people have a requirement to have the actual ability to touch into a display and interact with it as you would with a comm system, then we'll have to advise people on putting touch panels. And there are a number of providers, manufacturers of touch panels that will simply plug in as a piece of glass. So there are no barriers to the solution, but there are hurdles to get over.
Hardware is certainly a key issue here. You mentioned touch or the size of the screen, or I can imagine even the operating systems can be a challenge. In your cases where you tested, did every player, so ATCO, trainee, trainer, pilot come with, or not come, interact with using their own hardware, or did they receive some hardware from the organization, which could be a backdraw in the kind of COVID-19? You don't want to have all your people coming home to get a laptop from the company.
No, sure. So it's been mixed. I'm going to do this with my thumb and say it's roughly 80% are people operating on their own hardware. And that's, we are operating system agnostic because it's a cloud solution. So if somebody has an Apple system at home or a Windows system, it doesn't matter. I believe that Linux is working as well, but that's with one of our engineers. I haven't seen that used in the field. Not many people are using the Linux-based platforms or Unix-based platforms at home. But again, we don't see that as a barrier. It's just, it's an operating system that allows us to deliver the application through the cloud.
Do you know if anybody came in with touch device or tablets or big smartphones even, or is it strictly computer?
So in our internal testing, we have used smartphones, iPads, Windows operating systems, and Apple-based systems. Further than that, we are still, well, we don't know at this point what anyone else is doing because no one's telling us that it's not working. So they have their own systems, they have their own hardware, and so far so good.
Do you have any feedback from your customers how they run the organizational aspect of it? You know, starting the exercise, having everybody on the same page at the beginning of the exercise. Do you have tools to support that as well?
We don't have specific tools to support that. The comms system is up and running, and so they use comms, the normal best comms to communicate. The long-established users where there was remote piloting are using telephone systems, email systems, Skype, Teams, whatever. They're using all different types of tools. For the customers that are in trials at the moment, we will give you more updates as we come across them. But at the moment, we don't have that information about how they're communicating. But I can only assume, in the way that we're speaking through this so seamlessly on Teams or a similar product, that they would be doing the same.
Okay. We addressed a bit the limitations caused by the special circumstances we have yet. You also mentioned the difference between ab initio training and keeping current. Mm-hmm. Typically, ANSPs use ATC simulators for three things: ab initio, then getting the controllers adapted to the local site and get their qualification, and finally maintain the qualification. Do you think, or even revalidate if someone is out of currency, do you think such a distributed solution could adapt to all three use cases, or is it more like to keep the ATCOs fit enough and not too rusty before restarting the usual training?
That all goes down to how much they're prepared to invest. So with a generic ATM front end, which we have several to choose from, actually that is a good skills trainer. It's a good tool for training ab initio students or even through to a ratings course. For a highly skilled and bespoke operational environment that many controllers are required to operate in, yes, we can do it. We know we can do it. It's, cloud we can take any front end forwards, but it depends on how much the end user wants to actually invest in that user experience. And so I would say, to answer your question properly, for the training college type training or for the new controller type training, we can do a lot with this, but we still can't, you're not going to replace the interaction between two humans, which is the essence of being an instructor and the instructor's ability to really observe the student. So we can go very far, but there will probably still be a need for people to spend time together at some point. For the operational controllers, for new ANSP-based rollouts, for new procedure rollouts, absolutely the tool is fit and ready to do that. If you wanted to do the very high-end type immersive training, then you get into a human factors issue. So now you have the human-human coordination within the operations room, which is difficult to replicate in a virtual environment, but also the number of displays. So, you know, if you have a single ATM display, which some units have, then I would say, yes, that's no problem. But most units don't operate that way. Most units will have a myriad of displays for a controller. And so I think that the physical barrier becomes more the issue than the cloud barrier.
All applies obviously for approach and en route. I guess the restrictions on tower simulation is obviously the outside view.
It is, but we are working on that, and you'll see more updates coming on that. We believe we have a solution in the pipe. We can certainly deliver today the 2D solution, so the slightly more dated non-3D solution, but actually still works really well. You know, for 2D ground operations, for the close tower 2D and the area 2D, you can do that today. For the 3D application, it's all about the transport stream and getting the right quality of 3D image. So if somebody, again, if they want to invest and provide a high-end image generator type machine to a student, where there are one or more displays configured, then we don't have a barrier, then it works. But we are looking at technologies from some of the larger gaming companies where there is cloud-based delivery of 3D applications. And as I say, just watch this space. We are spending time and effort looking at that right now.
We will keep our eyes on you for sure. Looks like the COVID boosted that part of the business. It was certainly a challenge, but now that we are almost through it, do you really see some benefits from the crisis in that sense that it pushed that part of the technology?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that was on our roadmap. Effectively, what we did was reshuffle our roadmap to respond to the environment and more importantly, to respond to the operational needs of the end user. You know, the core of what we do is trying to make sure that our customers remain happy and have the tools that they need. And so we anticipated that they would ask for this. And so far, every one of our customers that we've gone to and said, would you like to help us with a trial? They've, you know, to use the expression, bitten our hands off. And the momentum of this is growing rapidly. So we are happy that they are working. We're happy that people are thinking about the way that the world has changed. And I do think that the COVID impact on businesses, not only from a delivery of training, but also how we run our business has really been, it's been a shakeup for all of us. You know, going into this, we had a view that some of our engineering practices and some of our customer support needs could only be delivered from our premises. My staff have proved that they can do it from anywhere, and you know, we've continued to run the business at a very good capacity. We've maintained support for our customers, but also we've had some sprints in the development of our product, which I don't think would have happened without COVID. And also some of my staff have shown that they're actually really enjoying working from home, and so it gives us a fresh perspective on what the office will look like going into the future. You know, 2 or 3 years from now, we will not look anything like we did 2 years ago. That's for sure. And we're already making considerations about what the Micro Nav office might look like as we go forward. So yeah, I think it's been, as much as it's you know, the negative impact for the wider community is there for Micro Nav and for small businesses like ours. I think there's real opportunity.
Brilliant. Happy to see that you have at least something positive to get out from that crisis.
Yeah.
I guess the last challenge which will involve you is the restart of operations, because ANSPs have now a lot of air traffic controllers that are not on shift because there is no traffic, and the ramp up could be hard. Do you expect some specific challenges in simulations there as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to how do you get a frontline controller back to the skill level that they are required, or that they, just through the nature of the business that they are maintaining, because they're on shift on a continual basis. I don't think we should say that it's been that long. You know, controllers are professionals; they're good at what they do, and it will take them a relatively short period to get back in. But I do believe that there will be a need for a number of guys to really take the time to go through the processes and the procedures again. And more importantly, there have been structural changes to the way that ANSPs are actually managing traffic. So where they've combined sectors, or they've taken less staff in a slightly different pattern is what we're hearing. So there could be some changes that need to be trained and considered there. So we're waiting and ready to respond as and when people have a requirement. And that's why we've built this cloud technology more quickly than we had planned to, because we want people to understand that there is tools available. Come and talk to us. We'll see how we can help.
Great, good to hear that. Before we wrap up, any final words you'd like to add on the company, the plans, the future perspectives, lessons learned, whatever?
I think at the moment it's just that I believe that my company has weathered the storm as best as it can. We've had to make some compromises. Luckily, so far we're still seeing the pipeline of work coming through. But I am also getting a feeling that there might be less work coming in a year from now, 2 years from now. That's the time that I'm actually more concerned about at this point. And I would encourage ANSPs to think about the impact of making quick decisions now that can affect everybody later on. We talk about securing the supply chain, protecting the supply chain. So we see a lot of packages going in to support airlines, airports, ANSPs, and so on, which is good and proper, and that's fantastic that that's happening. But don't forget the companies that also have to operate to support those things. So just keep the plans moving forward, look to the future, and keep investing and investing in the people, which means helping us to help you.
Yep, very true indeed. Greg, thank you for your time today, and hope to see you here soon. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, Vincent. Take care.